Well, we are working on removing the transmission and we're going to get it rebuilt. I don't know if you can tell, but I think she leaks just a little bit. Actually, I already knew that, but this thing is filthy. Like, there's just been leaking forever. This thing's probably never been out. There's the overdrive unit, but it leaks from darn near everywhere. And the other side's about just as bad. That's the fill plug right there. In case you didn't know, you pop that out and you fill it from the bottom or from the top until it flows out of there. There's some of the wiring on top, which is also filthy. So quick little tip for that. I made my own little wiring diagram with how it was all hooked up, just so I remember how it goes back together afterwards. Obviously, I've already removed the cover and the seats and all that. I didn't put that in the video because that's pretty self-explanatory. Let's go. Actually, I think the only thing that's clean is the where the speedometer cable hooks up. That's managed to stay clean. And then there's the new drive shaft that I put in a while ago. That's also clean. So next step is I'm going to lift the car up. We're going to put a jack under the engine to basically hold the block up. And then really I've got everything disconnected right now. Just need to undo the bolts for the bell housing, bolts for the prop shaft, drive shaft, however you like to call it. And then in theory, it should slide out. Oh, and then also the mounting bolts right there for the cover. So we will get working on that. Oh, and you need to disconnect the, that's your, let me get my light down here. That's where your slave cylinder attaches down there. That also needs to be disconnected. So we will get cracking on that. I'll probably do this in a couple of part series. One will be the removal. Next will probably be the clutch, and then third will be reinstallation of the transmission once it gets rebuilt. So let's get to work. This is a job by yourself. So I stopped to kind of show you guys what I did here. So I built these supports out of a pieces of 2x4. I got a piece of 3/4 inch just threaded rod, like black pipe you can get at Home Depot. I use these ratchet straps to basically hold the front of the transmission. It's pretty much disconnected right now. I don't know if the video is really showing it, but you do need to remove the transmission mount that goes there. It goes across this way underneath the transmission. There it is down there on the ground. So I use my trusty old lever bar here to lever the transmission up. I was able to pry that out, and then I was able to pull the transmission back. You won't be able to pull the transmission back unless you remove that mount there. So I pulled back on it. It's loose. In theory, it should slide right out. Probably gonna get my wife to help me do the rest of this. And what I'm gonna try and do is just slide it over here onto this piece of plywood, and then we'll lift her out and get her on the ground and get it all cleaned up and get it off to the shop. So again, that's just, like I said, two pieces of 2x4. I just screwed these together to make some feet. Drilled some holes through here. I got some caps for the pipe, just to keep it from pushing through. Then I used a 6-foot ratchet strap just to hold that front end. And then same thing on that side. So it works pretty good. There's a person that makes ones out of metal that are probably a little better suited for this, but it was also like $100 or close to it, and then quite a bit more for shipping. So I elected to just build my own. It cost me about 15 bucks in parts. I already had the 2x4s. So there's a look at some of the bolts you need to remove. You can see the shiny parts. That yellow wiring there is for the overdrive. And then it's going to be the same on the bottom. You got to, or excuse me, same on the driver's side. You got to remove quite a few bolts. The ones on the top of the engine there are actually studs. So when I undid the nuts, almost every one except for one of the studs ended up just coming out on its own because they were just so nasty. So let me get this thing out of here and we'll start again. She's out. Actually, once I got it disconnected from the engine, it was actually pretty easy. Like I said, we just picked it up, moved it over this direction. The bell housing you can see where it kind of fell against the body there a little bit. And that little 2x4 trick with the pipe worked a treat. So my wife just pulled it out this direction. I held the bell housing, and it was simple. Put it on a 2x4. We lifted it right out. So let's take a look. So the transmission was making a little bit of a whine. That's where the throw out bearing touches the fingers. And it's pretty worn. There's actually yeah, I can feel the groove worn into there on that pressure plate. So that's not looking very good. And what's kind of funny is there's a date over here, which I think says September 13th, 1972. So that clutch is a little old. We'll get that pressure plate off and see what she looks like. Let's take a look at the transmission. Other than being completely filthy, it obviously had an oil leak. So I was getting oil between, I thought maybe the new oil pan I put on was leaking, but it's not when I was under there. Looks like everything, so there's a seal basically where this plate is right here, and I think that's what's leaking. You can see it right down there. And look how loose this is. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but those bearings are making a ton of noise. And then there's that pin that's famous for always breaking. Let me show you how much play there is in this thing before anything even moves. So I'm willing to bet that pin's busted, as most of them are. So we'll get that fixed up. This is going to a local shop to get rebuilt. I'm not going to do it myself. That's beyond my skill set. But yeah, she's pretty filthy. So I got some degreaser and some brake cleaner, and we'll get her cleaned up as best we can. Then I'll get it off to the shop. I'm not getting a lot of play in the tail shaft, which is probably good. That actually feels super solid. There's actually zero lash in there. Yeah, so that's probably a good thing. Hopefully most of the problems in this were just bearings and then that clutch, the pin on the lever, and then probably some issues with the clutch too, I bet, when we get that pressure plate off. So let me do that and then we'll take a look at that. Pressure plate's out and clutch disc. Doesn't look terrible. That greaser is for my gloves. This is a flywheel side. It's convenient when you reinstall these, it says flywheel side right there. I'll be honest, this is the first clutch I've ever removed, so I'm assuming this looks all right. Friction surface seems okay. It's very smooth though. There's no like, it's not abrasive at all. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be or not, but looks all right. Pressure plate, she's old, but other than those grooves that are worn in it, it's not in terrible shape. So take a look at the flywheel real quick. I'm going to remove the flywheel and get it resurfaced. When I take the transmission in, I'll take it to a machine shop, but there it is. Really nothing crazy on it, other than a little bit of surface rust. But we'll get that off, and the ring gear and everything looks really good. It's not chewed up from the starter or nothing, so that's good. There's a little bit of oil. Fix the light down there. I'm hoping that's just old oil from the transmission. It's not the rear main leaking. So when we pull the flywheel off, I guess we'll figure that out. I really don't want to have to fix that, but it's the way she goes sometimes, I guess. So that's going to be it for this video. That's just be the removal, and then once I get it back from the shop, we'll get her reinstalled and everything. So thanks for watching. Hopefully that helps someone. Take care. See you later. Okay, I said the video was done, but I lied. So I got the flywheel off. Pretty straightforward. I had to pry it a little bit because there's a dowel that goes right there that kind of holds it on. But I did pull the pin out that connects into the fork, and she was sheared off as I suspected. So it'll be fun trying to get that out of there. So anyways, this will conclude the video. Next one hopefully should be all cleaned up. See ya.